Good morning, my name is Josh from Cyclones Oz, and we've had ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln cross the coast in Western Australia. We've got a tropical low forming up in the Northern Territory, and also a lot of rainfall situated just offshore from Queensland, which has been drenching the tropical northern coast over the past 48 hours as well. So that's what we're going to be covering in today's update. Starting things off with the Queensland situation, it is almost a tropical low sort of system that we've got offshore. It's actually kind of just a trough that's extending down the coastline, and you can see it's firing up and promoting some pretty good thunderstorm activity right now. And if I was to flick it over to an infrared look at the satellite imagery, which gives us an idea of how intense these thunderstorms are, you can see there's some pretty strong thunderstorms around the Mackay Rockhampton area just offshore from the coastline. And these thunderstorms, they've been responsible for dropping up to 500 millimeters of rainfall up in the tropical northern coast around Tully, Babinda, Innisfail, Ballindenkerr, that sort of area. And also I think the Daintree copped a little bit of rainfall overnight, up to 100 millimeters there around Mossman or so. So it's been typical wet season weather up there, where we just see every now and then deluges of rain coming ashore associated with these troughs that are funneled ashore from the trade winds in the Coral Sea. So the rainfall should slowly be easing off throughout today. It should be contracting further south and out to sea, but you still can see a low pressure system that is funneling this rainfall ashore, a low pressure trough located just offshore from Hamilton Island that is funneling this rainfall ashore, and this should keep up for the rest of today, but should slowly be easing off as we get later into this evening. But still, up to 150 millimeters could fall for some areas outside of Rockhampton, Mackay, and up towards Airlie Beach as well, and Proserpine. So there is still the risk of flash flooding throughout the course of today, and I do believe there is a severe weather warning currently in place for locations between Bundaberg up towards Mackay as a result of this rainfall ban that seems to be coming ashore and dropping quite a bit of rainfall. And then after sort of this evening, it doesn't look like we're seeing any more rainfall or any significant rainfall totals for the next 10 or so days for this part of Queensland. It looks like the rainfall here was very short-lived, just 2 days. It wasn't a week's worth of tropical moisture, and the rainfall then shifts up towards the Northern Territory, which we will be taking a look at because a tropical low is expected to form near Darwin and Melville Island. That's going to happen in the next, probably about a day or so. There's no risk of a tropical cyclone right now, but there is actually something brewing in the Coral Sea, I think around Vanuatu sort of area, or at least there was yesterday. I saw it on the forecast models. We could be seeing a tropical low form around the Vanuatu area, which will influence the Queensland weather quite significantly and drive quite a lot of moisture ashore in far northern Queensland. So we're going to see if this still does form, but it doesn't look like we're seeing anything in the next 10 days, which is some good news. But I guess for rain lovers in northern Queensland, that's probably not the news that you wanted to be hearing. Over the next 10 days, still some more rainfall expected to fall around Rockhampton and Mackay. As I said earlier, up to 150 millimeters is possible. Maybe one or two pockets might cop 200 millimeters. The axis is a lot more bullish in terms of rainfall because I think the Axis G3 model likes the chances of a tropical low on the Coral Sea, which we will be going into detail on in future updates if it does keep itself up on the forecast, but I don't think it's going to. But you can see the axis promoting more rainfall around the Port Douglas sort of area, up 300 to 400 millimeters, maybe in one or two places, or at least 200 to 300 millimeters. So yeah, it looks like a little bit more rainfall there, which for rain lovers is certainly some good news. And you can already see this rain swath here moving through around the Darwin and Melville Island sort of area. This is associated with a tropical low that's expected to form. You can already see there's quite a bit of rainfall moving around in an enhanced monsoon pattern around the Darwin area. And if I was to go over to a radar look, you can see there is actually quite a lot of heavy thunder showers just offshore. And well, I say thunder showers actually quite loosely. As with all developing tropical lows, there's not too much lightning around this. It's just this very heavy rainfall, and yeah, you can see just a lot of thunderstorm activity moving around the Darwin sort of area right now, and this is going to keep itself up for the next couple of days. So certainly a wet period for the north, around Kakadu, Arnhem Land and Darwin sort of area, associated with this enhanced monsoon, which is quite interesting to look at. And we're going to take a look at the wind forecast right now. I think it's really the Axis G3 model that only has this becoming a tropical low. All the other forecast models are just calling for an enhanced monsoon pattern. So we will take a look at the Axis G3 model for the absolute worst case scenario, and I do believe that this is not a system that anyone should be worrying about whatsoever. It will dump a lot of rainfall, 300 millimeters or so around Darwin and in other parts of Arnhem Land inland to Katherine, but it's not rainfall that we should be significantly worrying about. But you still can see Wednesday we've got these strong gusty winds coming ashore in the northern parts of Arnhem Land, and these are the winds that are going to be carrying a lot of rainfall. These are going to be moisture laden winds, and this is going to be the moderate to heavy rainfall that you just see situated over this area for say 48 hours or so. It looks like it contracts into Western Australia and the Kimberley region by next Thursday, and as we get into March, it moves in deeper into Western Australia. It actually does give formation a bit of a crack over land, and once again, I use that very loosely because it doesn't look like any sort of system to be worrying about. It's just going to be promoting thunderstorm activity throughout Western Australia, South Australia, and the Northern Territory. So this is interesting in the sense that it will have a big impact on the weather throughout the western part of Australia, or at least the western half of Australia, and also Australia's north. Because if it is to form and track in a similar pattern to what the Access G3 model is saying as a tropical low, then it's going to be promoting a lot of thunderstorm activity over the nation's interior. And that will be good news in the sense that we could be seeing quite a bit of rainfall fall through here. In fact, a lot of places seeing up to 200 millimetres, which would round off the year's wet season up here quite nicely, because the passage of ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln brought about half a year's of rainfall for some locations. A lot of rainfall. It caused some flooding, that's for sure. And then this one will just... it'll be the icing on the cake. It will really make this wet season a pretty good producer in terms of rainfall accumulation throughout the Northern Territory and Western Australia. So if it is to materialise like it is forecast to by the Access G3, then I think it's more good news than bad news. But still, 300 millimetres in a week is probably not the best case scenario for areas around Docker River or Balgo Hill or something like that, Curracara especially, because I think they got belted by Lincoln. I think they got up to 250 millimetres, which is a year's worth of rainfall, so any more rainfall there will definitely add to their flooding situation right now. We've got a lot of rivers in the nation's interior as well, especially in southern or southwestern Queensland, that are already at major flooding alert because of the rainfall from, I believe it was Cyclone Jasper and Kirrily as well. It's finally starting to get itself towards Lake Eyre about 2 months later, and it will fill Lake Eyre because we're seeing rivers frequently through here around Birdsville and that sort of area at around moderate to major flooding alerts. So this is going to be very interesting to watch over the next couple of days and weeks, and I do reckon Lake Eyre is going to get a good drink out of this rainfall that's moving through, which is going to be very scenic, that's for sure, for Lake Eyre. So if you're a grey nomad in this area, then it might be a good idea to start heading towards Lake Eyre and seeing it this fill, because it will definitely be a good one this year. But apart from that, nothing else really happening in the Australian weather for the next 10 days. It's going to be quite a boring picture by the looks of things for weather coverage, at least. There still will be daily forecasts, but there's just not going to be as much to really look at. And if there are things that you want me to really crack open in these video updates, then please do let me know, because it looks like we're going to be waiting until Saturday or Sunday next week for some thunderstorm activity to really fire up, and until then it's going to be quite a dry picture. Western Australia, though, they've got today and tomorrow. A lot of rainfall is going to be falling throughout parts of Western Australia today and tomorrow. I have just woken up, so this will be my first forecast for the Perth area, the first time looking for the Perth forecast right now, so this is going to be news to me, because I've only researched the eastern states and the north. But you can see the remnants of ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln. It never got to cyclone status. I mean, we really didn't expect it to wholeheartedly after around a couple of days of it just pissing around in the West Australian waters and taking its sweet time to intensify. So I'm not totally shocked that it didn't get to cyclone status, but it did have some good conditions that it didn't make the most of. And we've only had 3 tropical cyclones this season so far. I'm already getting into March, or getting towards March. So it has been a very much below average season in terms of activity. I've seen a lot of comments about how the system has been busy and active and so forth, but 3 systems, 4th if you include a tropical low that nearly got to cyclone status around the Northern Territory. It's been a disappointing season in terms of activity. The only saving grace is that these systems have all lasted 15 plus days, so we've had a lot to talk about for a long time. So that's what's made it feel like a busier season, but in reality it's been a really quiet season, which is in keeping with El Nino. I didn't expect anything different. It's nothing crazy to do with climate change. An El Nino season always produces less tropical cyclones, but we're heading into a La Nina, so I do believe the 2024-25 season will be a lot busier. And that's just a long-range forecast. Maybe we could do a long-range forecast in the next couple of days. That will be very interesting to do, actually. So I might give myself a bit of a crack at that. Anyways, that's 2 minutes of rabble on essentially nothing right now, or nothing that matters right now. Perth should be getting a couple of showers today, hopefully, and hopefully something meaningful apart from the 9 millimetres of drizzle that we copped yesterday. And then as this system moves inland, it'll be dumping quite a bit of rainfall through the Central Wheatbelt and also the western parts of the Goldfields over the remainder of Sunday and into Monday as well. It looks like a little bit of rainfall might sweep up from the south Monday and Tuesday, and that's what's going to cause humid conditions on Monday for Perth. Rainfall accumulation over the next 5 days for parts of the Wheatbelt region, because beyond 5 days it really is quite a hard forecast to make, but around 50 to 70 millimetres for quite a lot of areas, especially as you get further inland. It looks like it's going to miss the majority of the Wheatbelt. It's really going to clip the eastern extremities of the Wheatbelt around Southern Cross, Beacon, that sort of area. It doesn't even look like it gets down towards Hyden or Newdigate, and it looks like Norseman and Salmon Gums might get a little bit of rainfall, but again, this looks really disappointing for the Wheatbelt. That's for sure. Only the extreme northern parts of the Wheatbelt and the extreme eastern parts around Bruce Rock and Southern Cross are going to be copping the rainfall here, and it's going to be meaningful rainfall, that's for sure, but it'd be great if it was 100 kilometres closer to the coastline, because they do need some rainfall out there, and they need some rainfall badly, very, very badly indeed. And over the next 10 days, looks like we might be seeing some rainfall materialise again, but there's a very uncertain forecast because it's not really reciprocated between other forecast models. But yeah, just really pray for some rainfall down here because we do need it in the Wheatbelt region, otherwise we are going to have a dire cropping season. Let's just take a look at how poorly ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln is doing. Let's just laugh at the system because it's doing appallingly. The low pressure system is about here. It's just the south of Carnarvon, and you can see if I flick on wind observations, Carnarvon is receiving winds at 7 kilometres an hour. So this is appalling. Lincoln completely fell apart in a dramatic fashion. I mean, I was saying for people to prepare for 100 kilometre an hour winds, which in my defence was in line with what the forecasts were saying, but I mean 100 kilometres an hour, the storm isn't even blowing up winds 8% as strong as that right now, so it's done absolutely terribly, and that seems to be a common trend with all of these systems. They have not made the most of their conditions this season, which I mean it's pretty hard for a storm to make the most of its conditions, that's for sure. Cyclones, they always have a mind of their own and they do different things, but this one busted out more so than Jasper and Kirrily. I mean, I don't think Jasper was a bust, but Kirrily was certainly a bust storm. This one busted out big time. You can see though a nice thunderstorm blowing up around the Murchison sort of area. That will dump 20 to 50 millimetres of rain on any location in about a 2-hour period. So the risk of flash flooding and riverine flooding as it gets further inland is very much possible and is also there, that's for sure. A lot of rainfall now starting to move inland as well, which is good news. Dying for a bit of rainfall in Perth, but I would like it to happen after about 12 o'clock because I'm going to clean the boat. But yeah, it'd be great if the rainfall could slowly start to ease off. That's about the latest on the Australian weather picture. It's quite a boring forecast update, and I think that's going to be the trend for the next 5 days. So if you are sick of me but still want to see the weather, then maybe give yourself a 5-day break from the channel. But we will be doing some probably some innovative stuff in terms of long-term forecasts as well. So if you've got any ideas or if you've got questions that you want me to dedicate 5 minutes of the video to, then please do leave them in the comment section down below. Click the join button as well. I know a lot of memberships have just renewed, so thank you so much for your support, everyone. It does mean a lot, and I will catch you all at the next storm. Goodbye.